Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee, your dyslexic armchair detective. It is Thursday, January 19th, I believe. If you know anything about dyslexia, you might know something called time blindness, which means basically you live in your right hemisphere more than your left hemisphere, and time becomes more of a suggestion. You don't really feel it. Common with a lot of people with dyslexia, which is why they sometimes do something to over and over and over again, and they seem to lose track of time. It was some people call it flow, but it can be dangerous when you forget things like picking up your children at school or you forget to eat. I know that sounds weird to a lot of people, but it happens. All right, so if you know, hashtag if you know, you know, this podcast is because I watch all true crime during the day, look up everything in the evening, trying to make sure I have all the facts as far as we know them, or at least what's being reported and what's in the legal filings and what happened in court, as well as chitter chatter on the interwebs. And then I tell you, in case you don't have all the time for all this crime. It's a lot. So I also drink, probably because it's a lot. Tonight, I have a, if you can see, I have a blue sugar rimmed glass. Why? Oh, because I'm going to put in this fun little drink I got. Woo! Okay, that would be, it's carbonated. I wanted you guys to see. Can you see the stuff swirling around inside of it? It's called Dragon's Eye. I think it's blueberry. It's kind of strong. Let's pour it into the sugar rimmed glass and get started. If I had some blue Pop Rocks, this would, I was going to say, this would really rock. Get it? Pop Rocks, rock. Yeah. People with dyslexia often also, interestingly, a lot of comics are dyslexic. Having an interesting relationship or unusual, atypical relationship with language, because dyslexia is a language processing disorder. I know you didn't know this was a dyslexia podcast slash YouTube channel. And I don't know why I'm doing air quotes because that doesn't even make any sense. But anyway, Pop Rocks, it rocks. People with dyslexia often make funny little jokes like that. I don't know. I mean, everybody can. Anyways, so doesn't that doesn't that look fun? I think it looks fun. Let's see how it tastes. Mm. It's definitely alcoholic. It's very interesting. I don't know if you can see the twirl. There's like weird floaty stuff. I don't know. I love the sugar, obviously, because. Mm. Okay, so what do we have on order for today? Thursday. Well, we have last night when I was podcasting, whatever, YouTubing, right as I was getting ready. So I go live around 9 p.m. around because tonight it was like 9:08. Look at me, I'm just noticing. I think I'm going to have a blue tongue. But anyways, what happened? Idaho released the search warrant on Brian Kohlberger, the suspect in the Idaho 4, his apartment search. It released the search effort, like what they wanted to find, as well as what they seized. Very interesting. Very interesting because what they found, almost more interesting what they didn't find. Now, if you've been here before, you know the one way I'm sort of different from everybody is I like to seek to disconfirm. Why? I come from an academic background and I specifically studied, and I'm not saying I'm the best at being most logical and doing great argumentation, because I've been known to be what I call pitchfork Patty, meaning, I'm more emotional, especially when it has anything to do with children or against women. Of course, we all have our things that we get very upset about. And not that I like any crime, let's just say, but like, anyway, there are things that upset me, but I try to look at not just what confirms my theory and what we want to be. Everybody wants to get to a suspect. We want to make sure that the victims have justice. But I try to seek to disconfirm, meaning, okay, so even though I think like this thing might be true, what if it isn't? And then I look at, so what if that isn't true? How could it not be true? And then you think about um, trying to support the opposite of what you already believe. It's a little screwy. It's not very easy. Academics do it all the time, but actually that's what law is about. Because you don't go into a case just getting ready to say your beliefs. You also have to defend against the other people's argument. And the only way to do that is to consider their argument and then try to figure out, is there any way that could be true? And since you don't think so, you have to find all the reasons those things that could be true aren't. Sounds like doublespeak, but it's based in logic. And anyways, so what I'm saying is, when we look at what the search warrant was after, what they found, again, then I considered, okay, so what didn't they find that we would expect? Or if we think, and we mostly, Brian is considered innocent until proven guilty, but I would say in the court of public opinion right now, everybody's all on sides with he did it. So is there anything that could be saying maybe that's not right? We'll look into it. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying it's important, if we're going to say somebody did something, we have to make sure that there isn't something we missed that was like, oh, wait a minute, but that means he couldn't have done it. All right. Or maybe he had help, or we don't know. So the Idaho 4, that search warrant came out. We'll talk about that. The other things we're going to talk about, the Vallow Daybell case today. They were back in court. Judge Boyce made some decisions. Mostly, I think, very good decisions. So, Judge Boyce, we will drink to you. Good job. Lawyers are trying really hard, but I mean, they're doing their job, that's for sure. And speaking of court, we're going to talk about Mary. I put their names together. Maya Miliate has been missing since January 7th of 2021. Her husband is in the adjudication process. Like, Brian is just starting. Brian Koberger. He's been arraigned. And now he's waiting. He waived his speedy preliminary hearings trial to see if he's going to be bound over for the actual court. Larry Miliate is going through a preliminary trial to see if he's going to be bound over for Superior Court, which is the felony court, which is for murder. And that is happening. We are on day 6 of his preliminary hearing, which is really long for a preliminary hearing. And it's long because they don't have a body. And so it's a circumstantial case. They have a lot of circumstantial evidence, but that has to be presented in order for a judge to go, yes, this is enough, even without a body, that you can be considered to be bound over for trial. That is similar to what's going on right now with the Brian Walsh and Anna Walsh case. Is they have a similar type of case where they have all this circumstantial evidence that they're building up, and they're getting ready to do what Larry Miliate is going through now. Again, that was January of 2021 that it happened. I believe he was arrested in October of 2022. And now, when was he arrested? He was arrested in maybe that was October 21. Anyways, it's been like over 21, 22, 20, it's been almost 2.5 years, and we're just getting to this preliminary hearing thing. All of these cases take a long time. So when you hear people on the internet telling you to be angry because things aren't moving fast enough, statistically, on these big murder charges, especially when it's not clear cut, it takes a while. Why? Because we believe in protecting people's rights. And we don't just say you killed somebody, you go off to jail just because they were your spouse or it looks good. I mean, if you were a defendant, you'd be very happy. Most of us watching true crime, we want justice for the victims, and we're not very patient. But I mean, the system is for all of us. Okay, and then the fourth thing we're going to talk about is a celebrity case. We have Alec Baldwin, who I don't know if he's been charged. It's really weird. The DA in New Mexico came out and said that he was they were getting ready to charge him for involuntary manslaughter, and we'll talk about that. All right, so the first case. What did they find regarding Brian Kohlberger? And it is very interesting. So if you remember, and you might hear my dog Sadie Mae is getting a little cray-cray in the background. If you remember, they said they went and released the search warrant until they said March 1st. They were concerned about the safety of the people involved. This is really interesting because when you look at the whole thing, I am very unclear who was unsafe. Like, I don't understand. And if you do, you're probably listening to this on replay. Could you please put in the comments who you think who do you think they were concerned about in this search warrant? Now, the search warrant was asked for December 30th, I believe, and sealed that day. That was when they were arresting him. So Brian was in Pennsylvania when this occurred. Who do you think they were concerned about? Because if you remember, we collectively, being YouTubers, the internet, a lot of the people on YouTube shows as experts, I mean, law enforcement people, retired FBI agents, a lot of people were saying, well, it could be that they suspect there's another person involved and they don't want to let that person know. Now, Brian, he lived by himself in this apartment. It stated that he was the only occupant. They were obviously looking for anything related to the girls, anything related to the house, including like pictures of them, pictures of the house, communications with them, communications about like anything he would have about searching their house, searching anything related to this type of crime, as we saw in the Walsh case, right? Like those type of searches. Anything he had in his house that they were looking for, right? The knife, the weapon, his clothes that he was seen wearing. If it was him, so that the intruder, the suspect, he was clad all in black. So they were looking for black clothing. And on the second day, which I find, this is one thing I find interesting, and nobody else has really said anything about this, but on the second day was when they noticed that footprint, the second day of processing the scene. They noticed the footprint outside of DM's door, and it was tested. It was found to be, had the proteins of blood, and then they used the Blue Star, I believe, was what they used with it to, my dog's going to go crazy because she wants water. Sadie may know. Come here. Sorry. Okay, so regardless, we know that they said that they would need the van shoes is what they were looking for. It had a pattern that was consistent with van shoes. All right, so obviously they're looking for all of these type of objects that would go along with the crime. The knife is missing. The clothes are missing. The shoes are missing. Let me see. Anything else missing? I think that is it. That would be like what we're considering. Now, Brian's car, I believe, is still in Pennsylvania. I don't know if it was taken to Quantico, probably for processing is what I'm guessing, but we haven't heard anything about that. Okay. This is so inconvenient. Sorry, guys. 1 second. I wish I had some music to play for you, but I don't. I have to get my dog some water. I'll be right back. Sing yourself a little tune. True kind, grapevine, all the time. Why do you have to be on my pants? Okay. All right. Here you go. There you go, Sadie. Okay, everybody on the interwebs. Are you talking? Hi, it's me again, Patty Lee. Are you talking amongst yourself? That should be a really great. That should be really great. Anyways, now you know why I drink. Okay, so what did they find? What did they not find? And why were they so concerned? All right, what they found. So they're looking for any evidence. So they're obviously going to take everything computer related. So they did take his computer tower and they took his Fire Stick, which your Fire Stick is similar to like your Apple remote. I mean, the Apple, the Roku Fire Stick. It does things digitally. So it might have like searches, obviously, on it, what he was watching, what he was looking up digitally using his whatever he was using the Fire Stick with. They did take, or they reported seizing 2 Marshall's receipts and 1 Walmart receipt. Now, originally, I thought, okay. And with the Walmart receipt, they said that they had a Dickie tag. And Dickie is a brand of clothing, especially for work clothing, especially known for like really good work clothing that, you could do certain activities in maybe. And they do sell black pants, black coveralls, black shirts. They do sell those at Walmart. I looked that up. Now, and they probably now Marshalls is like TJ Maxx. Marshalls, get the max for the minimum. I love Marshalls and TJ Maxx. They do sell name brand things. Usually that was like past season. They get it from department stores that didn't sell everything. Okay, so I was like, oh, maybe they sell Vans shoes. I did go online, and usually the things that they sell in the stores are also on their online availability. Nothing with Vans shoes. And Vans shoes are very popular. All the kids, 20s and older teams, it's very big with skaters. Very big, just though they're comfortable shoes with all Gen Zs and millennials, I would say. So very popular brand. Not a lot going into the discount stores, I don't think. And they're not sold at Walmart. So because at first I was like, Marshalls must be the shoes. Maybe they found the black clothing then at the Walmart. We don't know. It might be that those 2 receipts had receipts for black clothing that will match. Not the Van shoes, I don't think. We don't know. Also, now this is really interesting. There's a lot of possible hairs, and like single ones, like 5 single hairs, 1 possible animal hair. We will know, like, again, this is one of those things where until it's tested, we won't know anything about it. So, I mean, were these like long, dark hairs like Xana's hair? Was it, um, blonde hair like the girls upstairs? Was the possible animal hair? I mean, was it dog hair? Was it dog hair that would match Murphy? Because on the interweb, everybody is already saying Murphy is the silent witness. He had to have gotten. And I'm not going to say the name right, it starts with an L. There's a principle in investigations that has to do with when you are in an environment, you bring something into that environment and you take things away from that environment on you with you. It's kind of a law of interacting, being in any environment. So, like if you came over to my house, I have cats. You come over here, you might leave, your touch DNA, and you might leave with like my dog hair, cat hair. I mean, I'm not a great housekeeper. You probably would, especially little black hairs from my cat. So that is what they're talking about. and we don't know what these hairs are. He's in student housing. I don't know if they clean the whole student housing. We don't know where these, I mean, I don't know if they were found on his clothes, in his bed, on his couch, on the floor. That would also matter, right? So they did find these hairs. They are being analyzed. We have no idea about that. So I'm not going to, we would like these all to be related so that we have a very strong correspondence between Brian and the crime scene. And that would be like game over. They were also in the seized reports. They got the contents of a vacuum, which that's going to give them trace evidence. We don't know anything about that. They have stains from a uncovered pillow. There were 2 dark stains that were tested, which must mean that it's blood. So they cut those out. So that, and then it said a big red stain not tested. And it doesn't say on what. Interesting. It leads one. You make a cognitive leap, right? Big red stain, dark red stain, must be blood. They didn't test it. And one of the retired law enforcement's talking about what was gathered stated, this must be something very important that the officers showed somebody in charge and they went, don't even touch it because it would testing it could be consumptive testing, it could ruin it. They wanted to test that for DNA. So it's something that could be DNA, obviously, hoping they're thinking tying Brian to the scene. So we don't know. And we don't know the animal hair is dog hair either. Everybody's already reporting that they found dog hair. It says possible animal hair. So not human hair. Now they know what they're looking for. So I'm assuming it looks something like a little white / dog, and like creamish colored, right? Like curly, because this is a golden doodle. That, I mean, I'm assuming that's what they're looking for. So they did find a possible animal hair, a bunch of possible hairs, actual strands of hair, which if they're long and they're female, and they nowadays we can do more testing to find out about whose hair belongs to who. It's not just looking at them anymore. So that's good from an investigative standpoint. And one black nitrate glove, which I find interesting. One glove. I'll tell you why I find that so interesting. And then they found his besides the pillowcase and the item that had the stain on it, they said they took the mattress cover and they cut it into 2 and they sealed it. So there's 2 sections sealed, but it's the same like discovery item C is what they called it. So they described it like that. And that was very confusing to some YouTubers because the way they described it, somebody thought Brian had sealed up himself mattress covers, and they were basically saying, why would Brian do that? Like that's a strange trophy because it's kind of big, right? Like he somehow took their mattress covers. And I think the mistake there was because of how it's written. The investigators are saying they cut Brian's mattress cover into 2 pieces, the top and the bottom, and they sealed them. So that's how they seized them, I believe. So again, what was not found? No knife, no mention of any clothes item taken, no mention of any Vans or any shoes. No mention of going into anything out of the traps in his sink or his shower. Why do I find that weird that that's not there? Okay, so we've got a strange dichotomy with Brian Kohlberger. On one hand, If all he left at the scene was one touch DNA on a snap and he got out of there leaving nothing else, that seems, now we don't know, right, what the prosecutors have because they don't have to put everything in the affidavit. I'm assuming they have way more. That is hardly, like, that is nothing really, considering the description of the weapon cast off was everywhere, meaning cast off as blood that comes off the item that was used to unalive people. I mean, it sounds like a very gruesome, bloody scene, and yet no blood trail leaving the house. He wasn't in a Tyvek suit because DM saw him leave the house, just clad all in black. So all in black, you wouldn't really see blood on black, right? So it wouldn't be noticeable, like if you had on a white Tyvek suit. I hope I'm saying that, Tyvek or Tyvek, one of those suits that people wear when they go in and do construction that covers your whole head and everything. You can wear a respirator with it. So he was clad all in black. Didn't sound like he was in a black Tyvek suit, but maybe he was. And maybe that was one of the items that was on a receipt. That would make more sense. But he didn't leave very much. And everybody said he was smart. But then he left, but he did leave a sheath, which is weird because it obviously wasn't connected to his belt. Otherwise, he would have unsnapped. He wouldn't have taken off the whole sheath, right? And then laid it on the bed when it wasn't found under the bed. And it wasn't found on the floor. It wasn't like he accidentally, like in a tussle, because they said, he had two girls to control in that room. So that's probably why he dropped it. But he didn't really drop it like you would think in a fight on the floor. It got under the bed or it was laying there. They said it was laid right now. It sounds like it was placed. I don't know. What do you think? That's just my crazy opinion. But the dichotomy is that Brian is this very OCD, controlled, careful, pre-planned killer, but also stupid and thoughtless, leaving things like a sheath or one glove. So I don't know, that it's strange to me that a sheath that's supposed to be on your waist, if you're going in to kill people, you're pre-planning it. This is like your big show, but you carry the sheath that has a strap to be on your waist. I mean, I guess maybe he wasn't wearing something on his waist, but then why not just carry the knife? Why not just carry your weapon? Why would you have it in a sheath? That is a problem cognitively. Maybe because he was climbing up on that third floor, like I thought. So if you're going to climb, but then you'd have it on your body, right? The sheath, maybe because maybe the pants he was wearing had big pockets, and he didn't want to cut himself with the knife. So he put that in the sheath, climbed up to get in on the third floor in the sheath, climbed up to get in on the third floor. I'm just assuming the third floor because it was very dark, and I think he came in the third floor because I think he came in, and that's why Murphy started barking, and Kaylee said, I think somebody is here. Now, he could have come in through that second floor sliding door in the kitchen and snuck up the stairs, but I think it was the third floor. Anyway, that would make more sense why he had a sheath if he was climbing with it. I just think if you're going in a house to immediately knife people, it's weird to carry a sheath versus have, like, why wouldn't you wear pants that you could have the sheath right on you so that you could whip it out and start working and not drop it? Again, these are the weird things about, like, how did his apartment maybe have little blood on his pillowcase, or excuse me, not the pillowcase, on the pillow, and a few stains on where he was sleeping, because it makes it appear, and we don't know this, right? But one imagines, okay, so he did this horrific crime, and everybody said it would be exhausting to do this. He takes a slightly circuitous, what I mean, like a winding long way home. Was he Was he throwing things? Was he disposing of his clothes then? Because everybody says, oh, he disposed of things the next day when he went all the way down, and over to the big national forest and was gone for hours and was out of cell service. So that night, from the time his car is seen going away from Moscow until when it gets back and he gets back to his house, like, does he go in bloody clothes and lay down? If he was all bloody, did he go? That's why I was wondering about the shower trap. Did he go into the shower? He would have had to shower off, right? And then we all know that if you have blood all over yourself and you take a shower, it gets stuck in the shower trap. I mean, they can lumen all that. And that was not, but maybe that's something we don't know about. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear more about that, because I would think for sure that would be the course of events to luminol, Blue Star, the traps in his bathroom sink and in his shower, because he would have had to come home and take a shower, right? I mean, how do you get rid of all the blood? He had to be covered in it. That is all very so he did all these things that sound meticulous and careful planning, and yet there's these things like, but then he left one glove, because we know he had between November 13th and December, I think he left on the 11th or 12th was the last day of the semester, and that he left around the 12th, 13th, 14th to drive home with his dad. So he was caught on the 15th, and it takes at least where he was caught, it takes over 24 hours to get there. So I'm assuming he left on the 12th or 13th, and they drove for over a day, because they also went to Chicago or to Colorado, I believe. What I'm trying to say is he had a lot of time to get rid of evidence. Why would you have one black glove? I mean, is that a trophy? That seems like a weird thing to keep. Or are we again, we don't know where it was found. Did he flip it off his hand and it went like behind his bed and he lost track of it there? But one would think he knew, like, oh crap, because he's aware of forensics. I'm just saying, how can he be both very smart and also so stupid and sloppy? It's like there's two Brians. I don't know. What do you think? Please put in any comments if you have any idea what you think is going on with the things that they found versus what they were looking for and what we think would be there. Now, again, he had almost a month to clean up after this. So I don't know why one glove would be there. It would make sense he'd be very good at cleaning, but we also know you can't completely clean some things. So it's the case is a quandary. There's just a couple things that bother me. The sheath bothers me. The one glove bothers me. And why isn't there more blood around Brian? I would love to know about his car. Hopefully, I mean, if we hear his car had all their DNA, the hairs belong to the girls, that would tie things up very nicely. And I would feel a lot better about this. All right. The second case was about the Vallow Daybell today, and they decided some things. This was basically Judge Boyce dealing with all the motions in limine, because we are coming up now on the trial in April, and it sounds like, okay, but Pat, this is the end of January, February, March. Okay, but that 2 months isn't really a lot of time. This is a death penalty case, and we're still trying to figure out some very basic things here. So the prior was talking about him wanting, again, he doesn't say, I want to separate the cases. He wants more time. And he knows, just like we all know, that because Lori and Chad are co-conspirators and their trials are bound together, that you can't just move one, you'd move the other. And Lori feels she doesn't want to give up her speedy rights trial. And that is now. Like, so they can't put this off anymore. What the judge said basically was, you need to be ready, but like, if they're not giving you things to be ready, then that's a problem. If the prosecution isn't giving you like exculpatory evidence that you think they have, if they are withholding stuff, that is a problem. then we will meet again and talk about it. So basically, we're still going to trial, is how that ended up. Then there was an issue with the two co-conspirators wanted to talk, and their lawyers were saying because they wanted to talk about mediation, and the state said, look, mediation means we're involved too, because all together if you want to like mediate a plea agreement, that's everybody. But two actual defendants who are co-conspirators can't be chatting, because what if they say something that is evidentiary and then the lawyers hear it and you've heard the other person's talking, so now you guys are a witness to the, not your client but the other client. That's just a mess. It is a mess. And then they were proposing, well, we could have somebody, like an officer at the door listening. I don't know, it's not going to work. And Judge Boyce said, no, you can't. Basically, you can't get your story straight. And Pryor was like, but we're not strategizing, which, okay, but you are. And so the lawyers can talk because, like about their clients, but Chad and Lori can't chat it up and decide what's real and what's not, and, maybe influence one another, unfortunately. And Archibald gave the interesting explanation but Lori wanted, before she wanted to make any sort of deal, she wanted to talk to her husband first. And the thing is, though, honey, y'all did stuff together already, and now you can't talk because you're both on trial. I mean, it kind of sucks. It sucks to suck. So, so Judge Boyce said immediately. So they wanted, also the state wanted the jury to be sequestered. Jury will not be sequestered. That horse is out of the pen, anyways. Out of the barn, I guess we say. Chad and Lori are not going to be meeting separately, and Pryor must be given all his things. And then Judge Boyce is having to make a decision. Okay, then about this death penalty thing. After the joint decisions were made, Chad left. Then Lori stayed with Archibald and the other attorney, and they talked about what are we going to do about the death penalty. And Archibald has like many reasons why the death penalty, it's unconstitutional. Lots of states have gotten rid of it, and we've talked about this before. Idaho has it. Sorry, too bad. That's a constitutional fight. It's an appeal thing. You can bring that up. Then Lori doesn't qualify because Lori didn't participate in the crimes and blah, blah, blah. And the state said, yeah, we think she did. And that's what we're going to present at trial. And so that's not really a good argument. And then the third thing was, and this is interesting because it's kind of true, Archibald doesn't want the jury instructions to be, basically to exclude people if they say they have personal objections to the death penalty, then they're automatically excluded from the jury pool. I personally believe you should have, like they did in other trials, you have the trial, are you guilty or not? And then you have a penalty phase. And I guess Idaho doesn't do that, which is unfortunate. I mean, I don't know, maybe everybody doesn't do it, or maybe that's only for, I've seen that in younger kids, like the shooter in the Florida, in the Marjorie Stone Douglas case. They had the trial. Well, he actually didn't have a trial. He just pled guilty, and then they had a penalty phase. But I just don't know. I kind of agree with Archibald in that if everybody already agrees, the thing is, if they agree that they believe in the death penalty, that if they're guilty, they're going to probably give the death penalty. Maybe, maybe not. But more likely they will convict with the death penalty if they're already on board with it, I guess. It's a problem. See, the thing is, but you first have to be found guilty to get the death penalty. So if your client's not guilty, you don't need to worry about it. There's that side too. So I get what Archibald's saying. I'm not really big on the death penalty because I don't know. Oh, wait, there was a fourth argument. Archibald said Idaho is a very fiscally conservative state. And as we all know, statistically, going for a death penalty case and then housing somebody and all the appeals that go along with the death penalty to get it carried out is massively more expensive. And the citizens of Idaho don't want that. And I was like, well, then, but they have the death penalty. And Rob Wood said, look, in my 5 years in this position, I have never asked for the death penalty except once. This. So there's that. So I agree. I can see both sides. But it's going, and they're not getting rid of the death penalty. This is Idaho. They're out in the wild, wild west where people don't mess around, don't commit crimes out in states with the death penalty, like Texas, Florida, out in the west. I mean, California, go ahead, but I mean, don't go ahead. Sorry, don't. What I'm saying is, there are certain states you're not going to argue that the death penalty is bad because they do not care. They are pro. And I mean, Archibald is doing his job in being a very strong proponent for his client. But, girl, you're in danger. Maybe you ought to think about whatever. I can't wait to see what the state has, and I hope, with all the things we know about Arizona, what Lori did with her friends regarding Chad, or with Chad, and regarding her ex and how they unalived him. I'm telling you, I am sure she left evidence similarly, and this is not even going to be a problem. Just my speculation. I don't know for sure. Just my opinion. She is still innocent until proven guilty. All right. Larry Miliete. His 6th day, there were 4 people that were on the stand. One was a very good friend of Maya who had a lot of evidence about texting with her. She texted her and spoke with her every day. She worked with her until January 7th, and she hasn't heard from her since. And everybody's story, her younger brother, or excuse me, who started out the day? Everybody who starts out the day, including one of her bosses and her brother. I'm just going to call him Jay. His name is a little longer. I'm just going to shorten it to Jay. Everybody of the brothers, the family, her friends, and her boss. She started having problems with her husband in 2020, and they really became difficult after the spring, summer. She moved out in May, which we've heard from her brother and her brother-in-law that she lived with, and now, as well as her sister, and now this second brother. Everybody knows Larry was desperate to get her back, and she was over it by the fall. So she moved out for a short time, and then she moved back in, and then she made plans to leave for good, and then she disappeared. And basically, that is the same report for everybody. And all the defense has is trying to insinuate, and then it's often stopped by the judge because there's no proof. It's just insinuation, and the judge has to say, there's objection, not relevant, move on. The lawyer keeps saying, wasn't she seeing somebody? Did she say she needed to get away from her kids? Like, every mom will be like, I wish I could just run away. I just need a break from the family. But everybody says Maya never would take off from her kids permanently. And nobody thought she had a boyfriend. I don't know if we'll find out she did. Regardless, that doesn't matter. We know that she disappeared, was never on social media when she was very much on social media, never contacted her family or friends, always contacted her family or friends, didn't show up for her job, always did her job. It's pretty clear what happened. Of course, at least enough to be bound over for trial so far. There is another, I think we have another week of this. It was supposed to be 3 weeks. So this was the 2nd week. Friday, the defense has some issues, but they're going to continue. I don't know how many people will be on the stand, but I'm just telling you guys, it will be bound over because there is no evidence that Maya took off. I mean, they're trying to paint her as this mom who got bored of her life as a mom and wanted to leave. But really, all the evidence, text message, like real evidence in time, shows that she was becoming increasingly like she thought Larry would hurt her children. At the very end, she said, if anything happens to me, look to him. But she was more afraid he'd hurt the kids to get at her. But, she was telling everybody, we're getting divorced. This is over. Um, as we know, the most dangerous time is right when a woman chooses to leave. I believe Anna Walsh was doing the same thing. She was making plans. Her friends knew she was making plans to move her and her kids as soon as her husband probably was in jail for his Warhol fraud. And, he sort of circumvented that. All right, the Rust celebrity. This is my last little upload about little piece of tonight's update. Alec Baldwin was involved in, and if you recognize, everything we have legally happened in 2021. So before everybody starts screaming again about when you hear things aren't happening fast enough, keep that in mind, just in the back of your mind, that like we're coming up on between 2-3 years between things when they finally come to fruition, just starting in the courts, not finishing, just starting. So Alec Baldwin was producing a movie himself. It wasn't a major motion picture by a big production company. It was his production company, I believe. The set had problems. They were out in the desert. Everybody was reportedly was unhappy. They didn't like where they were staying. They were working too many hours. People were striking. They were leaving the set. There were problems. People weren't happy. Then one day during a scene, Alec is handed a gun. They're practicing the shot. Like they're setting up a shot inside this church. The creative director Hutchinson is like, she's unfortunately standing right in front, like looking, like getting the shot. So she's right in front of the gun. And now Alec, there are supposed to be 0 live rounds on the set. No one's sure how the live rounds got on the set, let alone in the gun that Alec Baldwin was using for the scene. Now they were just getting the shot. So he really wasn't supposed to be like doing the whole scene. He wasn't supposed to be acting it out, pulling the trigger. But it appears as if during the getting the scene, he did pull the trigger. I mean, but it was supposed to be blanks. Now, this was like a number of, like there's a number of errors that went into this, but the person who handed the gun, I believe somebody said it was the armorist. I believe the armorist is a person in charge of guns. She was young, 24. Her dad though was a industry wide whatever. Also, so she had grown up in the field and was around this her whole life. She was cheaper to hire than her dad. So everything, Alec was trying to keep the cost down, right? This was a shoestring budget, this Western. But people weren't happy with her. They thought she was like nepotistic. She was just there because of her dad. I am telling you, there's something really weird about Alec and this armorist being charged with involuntary manslaughter. The person who is the main person who is the witness for the state is the person who handed the gun to Alec. He's getting 6 months and it's probation, I believe, he pleaded that he was whatever, not careful enough. But I want to know who brought the live rounds. There weren't supposed to be live rounds. And in the past, there was some discussion about like if you shook them a certain way, you should be able to know. And if you looked like, but you would have to expect to be looking for the difference. And there weren't supposed to be live rounds there. And where they got their ammunition from it was fake ammunition. There weren't supposed to be live rounds. Somebody brought live ammunition to the set. Somebody loaded live ammunition into the gun. Did the armorist accidentally put it in, or did somebody else? That will probably come out in court. But everybody's like, I mean, obviously, he's being charged with involuntary manslaughter, meaning he killed somebody and it was due to negligence, is probably the like mitigating factor. It's meant like he didn't plan this out. He didn't mean to kill her, but it was his negligence. But I don't see how he was negligent when he had two other people that were supposed to be in charge before the gun got to him. Now, he wasn't really supposed to pull the trigger during the practice shot, like to just set up the shot, and he did. And he unfortunately went on all these TV shows and was like, I don't know how the gun went off. I didn't, whatever. He was covering his ass, which I understand. But what's getting lost in all this is where there is a criminal. Like there's a real criminal, and it's not an accidental. There was somebody who wanted to F up this whole, like they were mad at Alec Baldwin. They're mad at the armorist. They wanted to cause problems for this movie. I don't think they wanted to kill anybody, but I don't know if they wanted somebody to die and Alec Baldwin to get blamed. Like, oh, you effer, you don't pay us enough. You put us out here in the middle of freaking nowhere. You give us crappy housing. F you, mother effer. I'll show you. I'm going to put, like, I mean, there was, when this first happened, some talk about certain people who were angry and who had access and maybe slipped it in because they disliked who got the job. This little young, just because her dad was an armorer, oh, she's the expert. Like these people were frustrated. They were away from their homes, angry, tired, hungry, pissed off. But why is nobody looking for them? Is the DA going after Alec Baldwin because one, he's a freaking blowhard and can't shut up his mouth, so that doesn't look good for him. And two, he's got the money and he's an easy target. He's a celebrity. So if you're a DA who is elected, that seems like a really good thing to put on your resume. I'm not afraid, even when it's a celebrity. But I mean, I don't think what he did was a felony. I think I think it was a horrible accident, but I don't think it amounts to what they're, and personally. I mean, but I'm not a lawyer. Wasn't my relative that he killed. I don't know. So that's the Rust tale right now. But I seriously am wondering, where is the person who had the live ammunition that put it in the gun? Or at least brought it to the set so it could be placed in the gun. Who was that? That is a criminal. Okay, so that's all I have tonight. So it's been about an hour and I'm done. I will be back here tomorrow night, Friday, for one more live for this week. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I'll be hopefully working on the roundup for the week that will be uploaded as an edited video, trying to work on other things. I highly recommend, now I would put Pop Rocks in this, but I highly recommend this Dragon Eye. Tried to say Dragon and Eye together. Oh, wait, let me drink it with this. Yeah, highly recommended if you have a sweet tooth. And I don't feel didn't have too much alcohol. So, anyways, good night. Goodbye. I will see you tomorrow.